What's up, everybody? We are here live for another episode of the Red Glare Podcast, and we are back. I'm so happy to be here on a very high note as well. So I am your host, Alec Miller. You can find me on Twitter at AlecMiller0423, and I'm joined as always with my second host, Paul Trinidad. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Y'all can find me on Instagram, PL Trinidad. Happy to be here and can't wait to get into some of the content we got, man. Fresh off the Coogs game, so.
Yes, and I know I'm wearing a Braves hat. It's only because my son had practice today, and my hair is kind of a mess now. Crystal did try to fix it. It didn't work. So I'm just going to keep it on. We're going to roll with it. We don't hate the Braves here in Houston.
Yeah, we don't hate the Braves.
We're pretty neutral, so
Yeah.
I'll just keep it on for now so I don't have to bless you guys with my horrible hair at the moment. But we're coming off of a pretty big week, man. The Rockets still where they're at, doing their thing.
Yeah.
They got to win. They got to win. They got to win, what was it, Saturday?
Yeah.
I think it was Saturday against the Timberwolves.
Yep.
So even though you're like, hey, stop winning, we want that number one pick. We want Cade Cunningham, but it's okay.
Yeah. Kelly Olynyk, he hasn't got the agenda yet.
He's trying to win.
Yeah, he's out there like dishing assists and like knocking down threes and like bringing the intensity. But it's appreciated, bro. It's kind of refreshing after like all those losses.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah, Christian Wood out there with Kelly Olynyk. It's kind of nice. I like it. I'll be okay with seeing that next year if that happens. But last week we didn't talk trade deadline. This is our first trade deadline talk. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So we
right.
didn't get to talk about the fact that Oladipo is no longer a Houston Rocket.
Right.
Which will feed into Raphael Stone's comments we'll talk about in a minute. But we did end up trading Victor Oladipo. It literally came down to the very last second because I actually texted you and saying they didn't move him.
Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes later, he was moved. So the trade was probably sent in earlier and just not announced until last minute. But so we basically got Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and swap first round picks. We didn't get an extra one. We just going to be swapping some picks. With the Miami Heat, and we gave up Oladipo to them. Now, I haven't seen how Oladipo's playing over there yet. I can look that up in a minute. But I would say it's a very disappointing haul for Oladipo. Not because I think we should have got more for Oladipo, but it's because of the fact that that Oladipo trade was going to be tied into James Harden until the end of time. When you immediately think about, like, what did you get for Oladipo, you have to tie that into, basically, that's what we got for Harden. And when you look at it, we got, I think, 3 first-rounders, Kelly Olynyk and Avery Bradley for James Harden, which, to me, is kind of disappointing.
For sure.
When you think about the fact that we had Karis LeVert here and gave him up for Oladipo, and then when you hear Raphael Stone's comments, you wonder why did you go after Oladipo then? Because for those who don't know, Raphael Stone had an interview today saying that he really didn't understand how Oladipo was going to fit. After he got here, they didn't understand how he was going to fit, and that kind of led to them having to get rid of him. And in my mind, you should know how someone's going to fit, especially when you're trading a very young talent like Karis LeVert, who has a lot of upside for Oladipo. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I completely agree. Is my audio okay, by the way?
It's a little echoey, but it's not bad. It's not horrible. Like it's good. I can hear you. It's just it's a little off.
Okay. Well, I'll work on fixing that. I just want to add. Yeah. The trade for me was underwhelming. Oladipo. Like you mentioned, if Oladipo kind of wasn't part of the long-term plan, why did you bring him here in the first place? I mean, Karis LeVert was much younger. You probably could have even flipped Karis LeVert for a better package than what you just got for Oladipo. So that's kind of my biggest question mark, head scratcher. And I can't exactly figure out what the train of thought was with Raphael Stone there.
Yeah, I don't either, and he didn't really touch on it in this thing, even in this interview. Even though he was talking a lot, he was definitely talking a lot. But that I guess that mindset didn't come into explaining why he wanted Oladipo, because I think that is even not
Yeah.
from the get go. It was like Oladipo's cool, but it was a very weird trade because one, he was on an expiring contract,
Right.
and in my experience with expiring contracts, those are mostly for championship contending teams that need an extra piece, like the Miami Heat, trying to get back to where they were last year. And
Yeah.
it's because most likely, like either he's probably not going to be here next year, but he can try and get him a ring. With the Rockets, it didn't really do anything for him or us, except help us lose more. I guess I don't. It's just a very weird thing to happen. Whereas yet, Karis LeVert, who I don't believe is on an expiring contract, has a lot of upside in this league. I think he's going to be a really good player in this league, and we basically gave him up for Oladipo, and I think it was a straight up trade for Oladipo. It wasn't. I don't think we added anything, or they didn't add anything. I think I'm gonna
Yeah.
look at the details of that trade real quick while you give your thoughts on that.
Yeah. And one thing, I have a quote here that I wanted to read from Raphael Stone. Actually, a lot of his quotes kind of left me not satisfied, but I'll start with this one. So, um, this is quote Raphael Stone, GM, in an interview today.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, "I would for sure 100% do that deal again on the Harden trade," and went on to further say, "Again, you guys don't have the advantages of knowing everything I know, but literally no part of me regrets doing that deal. I have not second guessed it for a moment." So, um, the part of this quote for me that's kind of confusing is the line that says, "Again, you guys don't have the advantages of knowing everything I know." I don't know what he was trying to instill there on the media. Um, I'm fine with you having no regrets on the Harden trade, but what exactly are you trying to say by saying you know more stuff than other people? Like, are you trying to validate that you're a good GM to yourself? Are you trying to say that there was more behind the scenes going on? It's just kind of confusing. I just don't see the point of throwing stuff like that in a statement.
Yeah,
And yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that one. I have one more I want to read.
I will say that I think it's a bad sign when you feel like you have to explain your moves as a GM. That's not a good sign. Because in reality, in my personal opinion, I believe that your moves should speak for themselves. You shouldn't have to explain why you did said deal.
Right.
It's going to happen sometimes, but with something as big as that James Harden deal, um, it's tough. You're going to be put under the microscope
Right.
with this James Harden deal, and now you put this immense amount of pressure on these draft picks that you got from Brooklyn and your own, because we still have plenty of draft picks. We still have, I believe we have the Detroit. We have 3 first rounders in this upcoming draft.
Right.
And you have, in my opinion, you gotta slam dunk in at least one of these guys.
Right.
And especially
Hopefully
if
the
it's
top three. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're top 3. If you're top 3, you gotta hit on one of these guys. And
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows Cade Cunningham is basically the number 1 pick. We're definitely in play to get that, but there's a bunch of guys like we went through some of the possibilities last week, and a couple of the guys I never even heard. I hadn't heard of because they were G League affiliate guys.
Right.
I don't really know how that's working, because even like some shows I was listening to earlier, they were saying that the Gonzaga guy might be number 2 and blah blah blah. But they weren't mentioning the G League affiliate guys that I had heard about.
So basically, like it's a combination of these guys like who aren't opting in for college, since now you can go to the G League for like 500K.
Yeah.
So it's some of these talents, because now this is like already the second year they're doing it,
Yeah.
and those are some of those people.
Okay, I can't see what you're doing, because the NBA is too afraid to
Right.
say skip college and go straight to
Yeah.
NBA.
So they don't have the
offensive
spotlight, but they basically have the college talent.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And that makes sense, but it also makes sense why a lot of people aren't talking about them. They're on scouts' eyes, in scouts' minds, because that's their job. They're supposed to know about these guys that are going to come into the draft, but they're not getting any national attention, and we know what it's like as Houston fans to be extremely disappointed on draft night. Even if it works out, the funny thing, even if it works out, you look back at the J.J. Watt draft.
Yeah,
everyone was pissed. Everyone was upset about that draft. I mean, obviously it worked out for us, but everyone was really mad because that's not the pick they necessarily wanted. But I'd say probably the Clowney trade. I mean, the Clowney draft was another one that people were disappointed with, especially when you get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But so we know what it's like to be disappointed.
Mario Williams. You know.
Yeah.
While you're on the subject of the picks, like that's a great segue to the next quote. So this is Raphael Stone continuing. He said, "One of your colleagues texted me the day after the trade deadline, and they said they would evaluate me in 2027." Stone said when ESPN asked how he feels about the return for Harden after trading Oladipo. And then he goes further on to say, "And I told them that it was too early. They should do it in 2030. So this guy's basically saying, hey, man, judge this trade in 10 years, which I don't know, man. I don't know if that's this. I don't know if Tillman Fertitta is okay with that. I don't know if Houston fans are okay with that. But he's thinking long term, I guess.
Yeah, man. You don't judge trades through 10 years. Like, trades are judged exactly the next year based on those draft picks. Like, we got draft picks through 2023. That's when these picks are going to be evaluated and whether we won the trade or not.
Exactly.
You should be saying 10 years. Like, we're going to be picking. So we're picking top 3, maybe most likely top 5. Plus, you got 2 other picks later on in the draft. Next year, probably around the same spot, maybe. And the Brooklyn picks until KD, Kyrie, and James Harden are broken up, or some kind of crazy collapse in the beginning of the year, they're always going to be later round picks.
Late first rounds, yeah.
So you have to hit on your own draft picks, not even just those draft picks. So I don't know, man. I don't like that he's saying judge me in 10 years. Like, you might not be around in 10 years.
Yeah. Also, like, Steven Silas has been taking a lot of dealing with the media for Raphael Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So even back when things were going on with Harden, it was kind of Silas stepping up to the plate, taking ownership, responsibility. And it's mind-boggling to me that after all this time has passed and he comes out, like, these are the comments he had prepared. Yeah. Man, it's just, I would have loved if he said, you know what, we're focused on our future, we're rebuilding our youth. Even something generic like that, I think, would have been a more positive spin than what he said today. So I'm not sure what the idea was, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what he was doing, he was trying to kind of he was trying to do the whole what people do, say like, oh, we're not worried about next year, we're worried about this year. I think he was trying to do that, but he went a little too far with it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're not going to put too much. He could have said like, oh, I don't want to put too much pressure on the draft picks, whoever we draft. So we'll get there when we get there. But instead he was like, judge me in 10 years, basically saying like, I'll still be here in 10 years, don't worry. Which, I mean, I admire the confidence, but at the same time, like, that's not necessarily what us Houstonians want to hear at the moment.
So one more mini quote is that he said, I don't think that we need to do a wholesale tank strategy like some other teams have done in the past or maybe doing now.
Shots fired.
Yeah. I wonder who he could have. I mean, maybe he's talking about OKC a little bit. Like, that's basically a wholesale team.
I mean, don't forget the trust the process originated in Philly.
Yeah.
He could be talking about that, but I mean,
that's true.
And it did take them a lot of years to get to where they are now. At least I know Embiid is on a new contract, and I'm pretty sure Simmons might be too. So their plan didn't necessarily take form in the amount of time that it wanted it to, because most people wanted it. In reality, when you're talking sports, you want to win your championship when your best players are on their rookie contracts. It's the easiest way you can surround that talent with. You can surround them with way more talent to fill in the holes on your team because you can pay more. But when you have to pay that player, it's a lot harder because now a lot of your money goes into your main player. So it's tough. But I mean, they're there. They are there now. So, do you really want to knock Philly for that?
So since you bring up Philly, looking back on it, would you now that you know the end result, looking back on it, would you have done the Ben Simmons trade instead?
Just depend. Would it be the same amount of picks?
Yeah, let's say the picks are the same, but you got Ben Simmons instead of all these random players that just came through here.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would. I don't know how that would fit with John Wall,
Yeah,
but I also don't think that John Wall is the future either.
right.
John Wall is probably going to be gone. John Wall's a talent that might be traded when he's on his last year of his contract.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see the John Wall Christian Wood experiment for very much longer.
Same.
I think Christian Wood is probably the only guy that is untouchable at the moment. So
Yeah.
I would like to see like a Christian Wood and a Ben Simmons. That would have been interesting. I don't think a lot of people talked about that, including me, of that possibility of what that could have been like. Because everyone, including myself, always hang on the fact that Ben Simmons can't shoot. That's my biggest issue with Ben Simmons.
Definitely.
He can't. But dude is an amazing passer. Like him and Embiid, like when they're clicking on all, like when they're on the same page, these guys are insane to watch. They're fun to watch. And
Right.
Christian Wood is obviously not as explosive as Joel Embiid, but he has that potential, and that would have been fun to see.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of it like when you say Wall and Wood. I mean, excuse me. When you said Ben Simmons and Christian Wood, that kind of like makes me think like, wow, we basically could have two All Stars right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like compared to now, it's like, well, like you have a borderline All Star in Christian Wood, and the rest of the team is just assets. You know, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that would have been nice. So, or you could have got Ben Simmons and probably flipped him for more. That too. But yeah, I kind of thought about that briefly today, and I was like, man, like, because I was one of the people like, dude, I don't want Ben Simmons, blah blah blah. But looking back on it, I was like, maybe I was wrong. Man, maybe I understand why those people were saying Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. We say that a lot, and I bag on him so much. I feel like, but he's always either an all-star or he's on the precipice of an all-star.
Yeah.
There was one year where people were talking about him as a MVP candidate. Like
right.
He's insane on the court. He's built like a LeBron if LeBron was
Right.
a little bit smaller.
Right.
If LeBron wasn't a Mack truck.
Yeah, he's like an offensive LeBron, but like not on the defensive end, right? Like.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has the passing and like the driving, but like no shooting or the rebounding.
Yeah, and even on the defensive side, he's so much bigger than most of the point guards that he's going up against. He's kind of already has an advantage there.
Right.
So I mean, he's always top of the. I think I gotta stop bad mouthing him. I gotta stop bad mouthing him.
Yeah, we at least owe him that much.
My biggest issue with him though is I hate the fact that he won't shoot. Like
just shoot. I don't care if you miss.
Yeah, like make guys like because trust me, every now and then it's gonna go in. It's gonna go in sometimes.
Yeah, like you're bound to make one. Like
I'm not the best player, but I had shots go in every now and then. I didn't just like stand there. If you didn't put anybody at the basket in front of me, I would shoot the hell out of it every day.
Exactly.
Like you just gotta do that.
I might airball like 3 of them, but I'm gonna make one of them.
But you're gonna be like, hey, this guy might hit one eventually. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. That's my biggest issue. It's not even that he misses. It's just that he won't.
You gotta shoot. You gotta shoot.
Guess what? Giannis don't shoot. He's getting better. But at the time when people were talking about Ben Simmons' shot, Giannis wasn't shooting the ball any better.
Exactly.
He was still taking shots.
Yeah, like when even still today, like when Giannis shoots, I'm like, oh, that's a brick. But I mean, he does it without hesitating, and sometimes it goes in, and I'm just like, well, there you go. You can't stop him when he's hitting threes.
Yeah, man, exactly. Oh yeah, dude. When Giannis is hitting threes, just get out the way.
Yeah. So
it's not fair. It's not fair when that man is shooting. The same thing with LeBron. I hate like when LeBron hits like a logo three. That's not fair. You shouldn't do that.
Those logo threes. I want to see like Dame or LeBron or Steph like make it a mission to hit a three from every court logo.
Ooh, that'd be
I want to see
interesting.
like who will be the first to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Probably Steph.
Probably Steph. Yeah,
Probably
if he
Steph.
hasn't done it already.
He probably has done it already.
Yeah. So okay, one thing I've been kind of itching to talk about is Brooklyn. So Brooklyn didn't make any huge trades, but they signed. I guess let me go on a 30-second right here. So
Go ahead.
they signed both Blake and LaMarcus. And basically where I'm at with it is like I'm seeing a lot of media, I'm seeing a lot of social media users. Everyone's just kind of calling Brooklyn the super team now, kind of saying, this, that, and the other, like almost handing them the trophy type of talk. And for me, I just don't see that yet with them. Like LaMarcus and Blake are kind of players both out of their prime. Don't get me wrong, I still like Brooklyn as a team, but I just don't know if a trophy is automatic for these guys. I mean, I think it depends on KD primarily, and then the rest of it, falls in. But when you say LaMarcus and Blake and the rest of the guys, that's not exactly like an automatic championship team to me. I don't know how you feel about that.
All right, so I was watching Undisputed today, and
Okay.
it seems like this happens every year. Every year around this time when the waiver market happens, the
Yeah.
waiver wire market happens, people tend to over-exaggerate and just blow up these very small signings that probably won't have much to do with anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Drummond signing for the Lakers was better
Agreed.
because LeBron and AD are out. Like he
Yeah.
can maybe stop the bleeding. He's not a fix. He's not the secret ingredient that they need to win a championship. Honestly, he's what they need right now in order to stay in the top 8 or the top
For
10.
sure. For sure. Agree with that.
So that's why that's the most important. But these signings always get blown up. You hear Shannon Sharp basically saying, start the parade now, the Lakers are winning. And then you got Skip Bayless saying, start the parade, the Nets are winning because they got Marcus Aldridge. And then everyone's like I said, everyone's like upset because of like the Nets are becoming the new Warriors and blah, blah, blah. Not really.
Yeah.
They were already a super team when it's Kyrie, James Harden, and KD. That's a super team on its own. That's
Right.
the Miami Heat super team in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But the signings of Blake Griffin, who wasn't even getting any playing time in Detroit anymore,
Yeah.
and then and LaMarcus Aldridge, who also was like really starting to play less and less. That's not the fix. That's not going to take them over the edge. They're already probably over the edge.
Right.
Honestly, like they're not.
Yeah.
They don't need these guys, but it's not these guys aren't gonna like LaMarcus Aldridge isn't gonna go and get you 15, 10, and 8 or 15, 10 and whatever. He's gonna get you probably 8 points, maybe about 9 rebounds, maybe a little more, maybe less, and probably no assists.
Yeah.
It's just not possible, man. Like these guys are out of their prime. They're on the waiver market
Right.
for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. Their names definitely like live up to more hype than what they actually can produce. I still think because when you look at teams like the Sixers or the Bucks or even the Heat, I mean, let's say Oladipo plays out and he's awesome for them.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to think like the thing about LA is they signed Drummond. If at the least bit, it makes them better defensively. If you have LeBron, AD, and Drummond all healthy in the playoffs, you're going to be one of the best defensive teams. So
Yeah.
I like that. Now, when you look at the Nets, after their signings, they're not guaranteed that. They're guaranteed to be about the same defensively. Maybe a slight improvement in rebounding, like you said, but maybe that's about it. So I guess my big concern for Brooklyn is like, man, if KD or really if any of their big three are not healthy in the playoffs, if they're going deep with a team like Philly or Milwaukee, maybe Miami, I think they still have potential to lose that series if KD is the one who's not playing.
So I'm looking at the standings right now, and right now it would be a first round matchup between the Celtics and the Nets. The Celtics are a team that if one of these guys or two of these guys are out, the Celtics could give them a run for their money. Celtics have been there before. They've been to the Eastern Conference. This team has been to the Eastern Conference playoffs. I trust in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and
and Brad Stevens too.
Yeah, and Brad Stevens, and I trust them in like late game situations.
Yeah.
However, I think probably KD is one of the best. Like KD and Kyrie are probably two of the best like late game guys. Kyrie is fearless with those shots. KD literally walked it down the court and busted one in LeBron's face in the finals against Cavs. Like he can do it. So it kind of takes away what I think is James Harden's weakest attribute, which is I think he disappears in late game situations in the playoffs.
Right. Those guys are going to want it.
Yeah. And which would be great for him. He could just go out there and do his thing and not really have to worry about and have that pressure under his shoulder. So I do kind of hope he gets his championship. But you're right. If one of these guys goes down, if KD or Kyrie can't show up for the final minutes of a game, and it's all on Harden, I will say I'd definitely be afraid for Brooklyn.
One signing that I like to, or one trade that was just kind of like, it was kind of awkward, but I liked it, was Lou Williams and Rondo exchanging places.
I was just about to bring that up. I think that was the better move. It was a better move for both teams.
For both teams, for sure. And like, to me, like I feel like the Clippers are kind of turning off a page. I feel like last year, they were overhyped. That's the end of it. They were overhyped. Maybe they didn't even want to play in the bubble. Who knows? But I think they're reaching a different type of maturity now. Like, Kawhi's going to do his job. I think PG has realized, like, PG's taken so many L's. Like, it's kind of hitting him. I think he realizes, like, he has to work hard. And now you add, like, some veterans like Ibaka and Rondo into the mix. And all of a sudden, they just seem like a more mature team for me in the playoffs. And I like them 10 times more than their squad last year.
Yeah, and Rondo is a guy that will not, he will not mince his words. He will let you know when you're not playing hard. And if a guy like PG is not hitting shots, he would take the ball out of PG's hands. If Kawhi is being kind of a baby, as we know he can be sometimes, he will let him know. And sometimes I think a team needs that. Needs that kind of guy.
And then on the other hand, you have Lou Williams going to Atlanta. He's going to love it there. In the bubble, he was, caught in the strip club in Atlanta. In the wings, lemon pepper Lou.
Magic City.
So yeah, and you put him next to Trae Young. You got Clint Capella down there, and a lot of young promising guys, and I think it'll be great for them, man. Like Trae needs someone else who can like shoot and play similar, and I think they're going to complement each other well.
Yeah, man. Lately, Kyle Horder, who was kind of his go-to guy, his shooter on the outside, he's been really struggling lately. And the only reason I know this is because he's on my fantasy team, and I'm about to drop him because I can't handle it anymore. Because he's just not shooting. He literally, over 7 days without an injury, he gave me 23 points. That's not good, man. So he's struggling. He's not playing as well. I think this is the highest the Hawks have been in a long time. They are the 6th seed. Think about it. They haven't been in the playoffs since Trae Young has been there. I think Kyle Horder is his second year in the NBA. So he's never been in this situation. He's probably, maybe having a tough time dealing with the pressure of people. Eyes are on the Hawks now. They have the like Shannon Sharp says, the biggest crusher of like what is it? There's a saying. Basically, like the biggest enemy to to potential is expectations. Like expectations can crush you. When people expect certain things, you can either crumble under the pressure or you can rise to it. And I think maybe some of the guys there in Atlanta might be having trouble, but Lou Williams is a guy that can get in there, plug in immediately, and pick a team up. He's not going to carry them. He won't carry them, but he will. Yeah, I think he's a great locker room guy. Magic City aside.
Yeah.
the bubble that last year aside, like that was a freak situation because that has never happened. It probably will never happen again.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I think
probably looking back on it a bit overblown too. With the COVID stuff.
absolutely, yeah,
Because they were treating him like he was going to ruin the whole bubble, and
he
now we
didn't.
kind of know. Yeah, now we kind of know what COVID is. Like, it's still serious. I don't want to give the impression it's not, but I'm saying like the reaction to that was definitely overblown a bit. Especially because he tested clean and things like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, man. I mean, sometimes too when you have that home cooking or when you're in that place you want to be, I mean, it's just natural for you. So who knows? Like, for the rest of the season, Lou Williams might put up like a consistent like 15, 20, man, and
hmm
hit up Magic City, see his family and friends, do what he wants, man. So I'm happy for him. I hope it works out. I always liked it when he was on the Rockets, but it
Oh
just
man,
didn't work out, But I still liked him as a player.
yeah, I liked him. I liked him a lot too as a Rocket. So a little check over at the rankings again, the standings. So on the Western side, we still got the Jazz at number one. We still have the Suns at number two. The top four, top five are still kind of the same. You got Jazz, Suns, Clippers, Lakers, Nuggets. Blazers are still holding steady at six. A good like 3 games behind them, or 5 games actually behind them, is the Spurs, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Warriors. That is your top 10 right there.
Okay.
Um, so I don't. I will point out that the Kings and the Pelicans are a half a game behind the Warriors. So there is kind of a race there for the 10 spot, which is going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to be looking out for that because I think people
Yeah.
have been kind of disappointed in James Wiseman over in Golden State, especially seeing what LaMelo was doing before he broke his wrist. Unfortunately, I really hate that he broke his wrist, man.
Same.
He was on his way to a non-argument rookie of the year. The dude was balling.
Yeah, and it would have been nice to see him next to Steph, man. Especially in a year where Clay was injured.
Yeah.
That would have been cool, but I get it, man. Like first couple games, Wiseman showed some promise. Like he was hitting threes, getting boards. Hopefully he figures it out, man. But yeah, I mean, one time I said this and Rockets Twitter gave me a lot of shit. I just said that I hate the fact that Steph is like 32, 33 now, and now he doesn't have a team, so it's kind of like the end of his prime. We're not going to be able to see him like competing. And I wish we were, man, because Steph in the playoffs is just unbelievable to watch. Also, I wanted to talk about Portland because I know they made that move for Norm Powell, and they're sitting in the 6th seed right now. It was a bit of a confusing move for me, but I think like Portland is just realizing they have to like gamble on something to try and like be one of those top 5 teams, and I think that's just what they wanted to do. Like, hey, let's try and get someone slightly better. They want every edge they can get.
Yeah, man, that's a duo there in Portland that I really feel like they might not ever get there, which kind of sucks. Like I would love to see Dame and CJ at least get to a title with or get to the finals on their own. But I'm kind of starting to get this like feeling that they're just one of those teams that are just kind of destined to be the outliers. Always talked. I think about Dame is always talked about as one of the best players, one of the best clutch men in the game, but he still hasn't made it to. I don't even think a Western Conference final yet.
So, sometimes I wonder if it's Terry Stotts that's holding him back, and I hate to like always blame the coach, but sometimes I think that I'm like, well, Terry Stotts has been there this long, like, or maybe the front office isn't giving him the players. But I think you're right, man. Like maybe if CJ had been healthy, but even when he was healthy, they were still kind of the same type of pace. So maybe next season they make a move. Maybe like people like Carmelo Anthony just they're nice, but they're still just keeping them mediocre.
Yeah, man.
I want to see someone better play next to Dame, dude. That's all I can say.
Like I think about other duos, like other tandems that have been together in the league, and I think CJ and Dame might be one of the longest behind Steph and
And Clay.
Yeah, because even before that, we used to talk about John Wall and Bradley Beal, and people are always talking about Bradley Beal's eventually going to get traded, eventually going to leave, and he keeps signing with the Wizards.
Yeah.
But CJ, because I think CJ would be just like Bradley Beal, where people should be talking about him at other places or trying to pick him up. You know? Because I think CJ's a great talent, especially at the 2. Did
you ever hear that that like podcast conversation, or I don't know if it was a podcast, but it was a conversation with CJ and Kevin Durant, and Durant was so basically like, it was a podcast, a CJ podcast, so shout out to CJ, but KD was on his show and basically told him, he's like, come on man, y'all know y'all aren't gonna win next year. Just flat out telling him this shit on this podcast.
Disrespect.
Yeah, bro, and then CJ's like, nah, man, like we're a piece away, shit like that.
Yeah.
Bro, it was total disrespect. KD was completely right, man. It's been the same story with the fucking Blazers.
Stop it.
Yeah, he's like, nah, bro, come on. It's me and Steph versus you. Come on, CJ.
Yeah.
I mean, any other teams that stick out to you, like in the stretch? I mean, Phoenix is one surprise for me, but I don't know if there's any else for you.
Yeah, Phoenix is one for me for sure. Those guys just keep winning, man.
What the hell are they doing in the 2 seed for this long?
I don't know, man, but I honestly didn't think Chris Paul was gonna. I thought he was gonna be good for them. I didn't know he was gonna be that good for them. I didn't think he was gonna completely change life in Phoenix. Right. But I do think it is because Monty Williams, man. Like Monty Williams is like one of my favorite coaches in the NBA.
Yeah,
I think the dude is incredibly talented. Isn't talked about enough because of his run over there in New Orleans, but I don't think that was his fault. I think it's because the NBA unfortunately runs the Pelicans. Like they don't know what they're doing either. Look at them. They got 3 really good players, 2 great players in Zion and Bi, and then Lonzo Williams, and they still can't even get into the playoffs. Like the NBA is doing something wrong there. Maybe the NBA shouldn't be owning any teams. But the Suns, man, like they're really good. Devin Booker, people are starting, and thank God they're starting to say his name more because I thought this guy, when this guy was dropping 50, like every other month in a game, or I think he hit 60 every now and then.
Yeah.
Like people weren't talking about him still, and I think he deserves to be talked about as one of the better talents in the NBA. I love Devin Booker. I think he before this year, I was like, man, get this man out of Phoenix. Like he deserves to be playing in front of the big cameras and all this. But now, I mean, everyone has their eye on Phoenix now, and I think with Chris Paul there, man, like it makes that team of rookies who have never been to the playoffs, those young guys who have never been to the playoffs, it still makes them dangerous because Chris Paul is there, and we know what Chris Paul can do, man. He's one injury away from getting us to the finals. Like I genuinely believe that, and I genuinely believe we would have beat the Cavs in the finals.
I'm with you. I think CP3 doesn't get respected enough. Like he's an elite piece. If you think about every team he's been on, like even in New Orleans, right? Him and Tyson Chandler, they were good. But every team after that, Clippers, Rockets, Suns, he's literally like. All those teams have been top 3 in the conference when he was on there. You know what I'm saying? Like the Clippers were really good. They even beat the Warriors that first year with Chris Paul in the playoffs. And man, dude, like sometimes I even think like as a Rockets fan, like what if we would have just stuck with that core for like 5 years? You know what I'm saying? Like Harden, CP, and maybe flip Capella, whatever. But them two at least. Well, I think we'd still be a top 3 team. Truthfully,
what if we sided with CP instead of Harden, man? Like, what if instead of Harden we were able to get a Karis LeVert, a Karis LeVert, and a Jared Allen, and a Christian Wood,
Like
that would have been wild, dude. Like, imagine that.
I mean, it like at the time it's like, well, you can never pick Chris Paul over Harden, but like in retrospect, it's not a crazy idea because you see that CP is still such an elite player at this age, So, man, I mean, it probably was mismanaged, and I love that train of thought that you said there because if we would have sided with CP, we probably would have had a balanced team. Like every position would have been like an above average player. I would have loved to see it. We would have been like the Jazz, maybe something like that.
Yeah, and people are seeing now why LeBron championed to get Chris Paul to LA as much as he did, because I mean, imagine CP3 on that damn
Yeah,
Lakers
CP,
team.
LeBron, and AD, it would be over, dude.
Been over.
Yeah.
But imagine CP3, LeBron, and AD versus KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. Like, god damn.
Man.
Like, wow.
That would be awesome, bro. Fucking awesome.
But anyways, let's get to what I named the video, which is the Coogs advancing to the Final Four. Man, this is as a Houston fan, as a Houston native, as someone who went to not U of H, but I did go to UHD, University of Houston downtown. So I do kind of have a connection to the Coogs, and man, dude, I am so happy for them getting to the Final Four. They've beaten some really good teams. They've been in very late, like some very tough situations late in the game. I would look back at the what is it? It was their round of 32, their second round matchup. Why am I blanking on who the hell they played? I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Let me get the bracket.
And while you pull it up, just want to give everyone a score update. Baylor is up 38-25 over Arkansas with 6 minutes in the first half.
I would not count out Arkansas. Arkansas is a tough as nails team, man. They were tough as hell. Oh, they beat Rutgers. Sorry. So the first round, they ended up take out Cleveland State, 87-56. Easy money.
Yeah. Easy money.
Then they get to the second round against Rutgers, and dude, that was a very tough game.
Yeah, dude. They were about to get bounced. Truthfully, like, because my brother went to U of H, and I always root for U of H, even though I went to Texas. But I was texting my brother, and I'm like, dude, U of H is down like 6 with like a minute to play. You know what I mean? And we thought it was the end right there, bro. And they somehow won.
Dude, and my biggest issue with this team sometimes throughout the year is the fact that they have been in so many late game situations. They've hit so many buzzer beaters or lost on buzzer beaters, and that I felt like honestly that was eventually going to come bite them in this tournament. It hasn't yet, but their next game is going to either be against number 2 Arkansas or number 1 Baylor, which will be the highest seed that they've played this year in the tournament. Because the highest seed so far that they played, I believe, is number 10. Yeah, is number 10 Rutgers. That was the toughest team in terms of ranking. I mean, in terms of seeding that they played was Rutgers, because they beat number 15 Cleveland State handedly, 87-56. They barely squeaked by Rutgers, number 2 ranked, and they destroyed Syracuse. Which I've been saying this about national personalities and national commentators and stuff. But especially when the Rockets were basically counted out against the Golden State Warriors the year that we took them 7 games and almost beat them in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Because that year everyone was saying there's no way the Rockets are going to lose in 4. Literally all over the national media, all over ESPN, Fox Sports, everywhere, dude. It was all Rockets don't stand a chance. They're out in 4. And then we beat them. And then I think actually we lost the first game. Then we beat them. Basically, we got them all the way to the end. And I was like, dude, and every single game, these guys were like, this is the one that the Rockets are losing. The Rockets are losing.
Right.
Every time, dude. And I was like, why is it that athletes, if they don't basically hold true to what they're supposed to do, why are they fired? They're cut. They're traded. Whatever. But these national personalities who are supposed to know sports better than anybody, when they're all wrong, like everybody, like normally you get one that says like, oh, Rockets are gonna win.
Yeah, I was picking the Rockets. Robert Flores, shout out.
Yeah, but this one, no, nothing. But that was the one where not one person said the Rockets. I felt like everybody should have at least been fined. Like, you gotta find these guys.
Yeah, like, fine for your nasty comments.
Like, this is your job and you didn't see this coming. It's the kind of same way I feel about like when a lot of teams miss on a late draft pick. you gotta eventually, like, as a team, you have to look at your scout and like, dude, how did you miss that guy? So the same thing was happening with Syracuse and U of H. everyone was saying Syracuse is going to destroy U of H.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, and I didn't hear no apologies. I didn't hear nothing. And I'm getting real tired of it because it always happens with Houston.
Yeah, I mean, no, I know what you mean completely, and the fact that I think they made it at least to the Final Four, like, is worthy of all the praise, of all the recognition. In terms of them like advancing, yeah, like my biggest concern is if they play Baylor, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, Texas won the Big 12 championship, but Baylor is the best team in Big 12, and I can admit that. So what I'm worried about is like if they finally meet talent better than them, that they won't be able to rise to the occasion. And they are one of the most talented teams, but that's just my concern because of what you said. 15 Cleveland, 10 Rutgers, 11 Syracuse, and 12 Oregon State. They basically got favorable opponents the entire tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to whoever they play next, yeah, I'm a bit concerned. But when you make it to the Final Four, hey, dude, all you have to do is win 2 games from here. If you win 2 games, you're the champ. Yep. So I'm rooting for them, man, and I'm rooting for them for some of those same reasons you mentioned. Like U of H, they deserve respect. Like they worked hard. Coach Sampson has committed to that program. He's re-signed.
1,000 wins as a head coach. He has 1,000 wins as a head coach.
I'm saying, bro, and he's got top recruits there. So I hope they make it, bro. I hope they make it to the championship. At this point, I don't even care if they win. They've done more than impressed. But yeah, it would be nice to just stick a middle finger to the media.
Yeah, but the road, however, does not get any easier. Like you said, we're playing either number 1 Baylor, number 2 Arkansas in the Final Four, and then you're playing the winners of
Gonzaga.
Well, so we have
Gonzaga,
Michigan and UCLA.
Yeah,
which UCLA, man, is a tough out. These guys will not go away. This is the second team, I believe, the second first four in team to ever make the Elite Eight.
Wow.
Because UCLA has played one extra game than everybody else. They had to play Michigan State in order to make the tournament. And then, as you said, Gonzaga, USC, which again, USC is tough as hell. Like, Gonzaga is not. I don't think Gonzaga really. I don't think they count out anybody because they've blown out every single team. And with talent like this, you have to be afraid of like having a bad day just because you're not taking the team seriously. But so far in every single game that Gonzaga's played, they've taken each team seriously, including Norfolk State, number 16. They took them extremely seriously because they put 98 on them. They're like, look, we're not giving them a shot to come at us. Number 8 seed Oklahoma, they beat them by 16 points, 87-71, and then they absolutely blow out Creighton University, 83-65. So that's another thing with this team is, are they going to eventually run into a team that they maybe overlook?
Yeah, exactly. They have the same problem as U of H, kind of like, with like potentially facing better talent. But that's a good point too, though. For me, like because last week I was selling USC short. They're in the game against Gonzaga. Like, I know how good of a team USC wins, but USC is. But also, I know that Gonzaga hasn't lost a game. So, in my Final Four, I'm seeing Gonzaga. I'm going to take Michigan mainly because of Juwan Howard. And then I'm expecting Baylor to win, this game. And that would round out my Final Four.
So I'm going to take Gonzaga because I do have Gonzaga winning the entire thing. So I'm going to take Gonzaga over USC. I probably will. No, I don't think I'll eat crow on that one. I might eat crow on this one. I'm going to take UCLA because they took out my Final Four team in Alabama. So, and they played at Alabama great, man. Like,
that was an amazing game.
And when you give up the lead and you let them come back and tie the game, it's really, we've seen it before in the NBA. It's really easy to break down in overtime. sometimes overtime sometimes overtime is worse for the team that was winning and then
Right.
allowed to come
Right.
back. Like because they're just defeated, they feel like they've given it everything. But they did it. UCLA ended up putting I think they put up 30. So they beat them by 10, Alabama,
Yeah.
and it was at I think it was like 70, 75. They held Alabama. UCLA they hit this nasty dagger. This one dude hits this nasty dagger three to basically put the finishing touches on them. So I think I'm gonna go UCLA. Nothing against
I like
Michigan,
it.
but I like Michigan, but nothing against them. And then yeah, I'm gonna take. So I'm gonna pick Baylor to win this, and I picked Baylor to go to be in the title, but I'm gonna hold with them, man. I'm gonna ride with them. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
Coogs on that game. I think that U of H, they played some really good talent during the year. They've beaten them or they've hung with them, and I will say this: even though they've let their games get down to the wire a lot, Kelvin Sampson has created a very mentally tough team that
Yes.
can handle those late clutch situations. So I'm gonna hang with the Cougs on this, and we're gonna see a Gonzaga Cougs
I like it.
championship game.
I like that. I actually couldn't agree more. Like, if any of these teams, like in the Final Four, I picked if any of those teams have like some defects, it is Baylor. As great of a team they are, like I have seen them lose against inferior opponents. So I'm gonna take U of H too. And then on the other side, again, I just can't pick against Gonzaga. Like they've given me no reason to all year.
Yeah,
So I'll see them in the championship game. And yeah, we'll see. After this matchup, if both teams make it in, I'd love next week to come back and make a final prediction of who I think will win.
and in the championship game though, this is where it's tricky. Is like if Gonzaga does get there, the amount of pressure that's gonna be on Gonzaga.
Ooh,
That is a game that if
good
you're the
point.
coach of either Baylor, Arkansas, or Houston, you basically just tell them like just go play.
Yeah,
Go play. You got nothing to lose. You got everything to win. You're not supposed to be. If you're Houston, you can say you're not supposed to be here. If you're Baylor, you're like, hey, like, don't worry, man. Like, I know that we didn't get the Big Ten championship, but just go out there, play your game. We got here. Same thing with Arkansas. Gonzaga
yeah,
says they have a perfect season on the line. They have not lost to anybody. I believe a perfect season has only happened once. So they would have all the pressure would be on Gonzaga. None of the pressure would be on Baylor and U of H or Arkansas. So
that's a solid point, bro. That's a solid point. I honestly didn't think of that, but you're right. They could have that Patriots Giants effect.
Yeah,
U
man.
of H might be the Giants, and Gonzaga might be the Patriots and collapse.
Exactly. So I'm gonna take a quick little check again. So now, 2 minutes before the half, we have 44-36. Baylor is up. So Baylor kind of holding the lead, but Arkansas is not going away. So
Yeah, might be late.
so yeah. Also, I want to point out, man, we didn't talk Oral Roberts. We didn't talk really Oregon State.
Mm.
Those teams, man. I hope that they don't put their heads down. We talked about you and David talked about it in the chat of like that was a great look. The shot just didn't go in. It's okay.
Right.
Like did everything you could. 15 seed all the way up to the Sweet 16. Nothing to hold your head at. You beat some really great. They beat some really great teams too. They beat. Let me look it up real quick. Oral Roberts. Where you at? Oral Roberts?
Oh, Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, yeah. First off, Ohio State basically destroying everybody's bracket.
True.
They
True.
destroyed everyone's bracket. So yeah, they beat Ohio State. They beat a Florida who looked really good. I really liked Florida, and they ended up squeaking out a victory against them. And then the game against Arkansas, man, like we said, just that shot didn't go in, but I bet you, let's say,
Yeah.
6 out of 10 times that shot goes in. I
Right.
think Asmus hits that shot. So definitely no reason to hold your head down. Please, I think these guys got to get unless like you said, the UT snatches up their coach. They're going to be getting some recruits there. They are going to be getting some recruits at Oral Roberts.
Well, yeah, and I see it two ways too, because like early when the tournament started, there's always upsets, right? So like shout out to North Texas, they beat number 4 Purdue, and they were the 13th
Yeah.
seed. There was Oral Roberts, of course. There was also
Abilene Christian over UT.
Abilene Christian over UT, and then Ohio over Virginia, who won last year. So, I was telling this to my brother. I was like, there's the Abilene Christians and there's the North Texas, where if they win one game, it's already made their complete year.
Yeah.
But to see Oral Roberts progress down the line and take more than one person, man, dude, I gotta applaud those guys. And same to Oregon State, like you said. I mean, all these guys made it, basically to Elite Eight round, and nobody expected it. It's going to do huge things for their recruiting. They deserve a lot of respect. And it's basically what Loyola Chicago has done over the years. And now when they win, it's like, well, we kind of expect that from Loyola. Like, they come to play. So, yeah, it's super exciting. Hell yeah. I hope Oral Roberts comes back next year and does the same thing, to be honest.
That'll be interesting to see actually going forward, like you said, like which one of these Cinderella teams will become a more like mainstay in the tournament, because we've had it with Wichita State. Wichita State was a team that nobody thought would ever come, and then now, like when people talk tournaments, like you automatically put Wichita State in your brackets.
Right.
I would say the same thing maybe with VCU. VCU, and now, like you said, Loyola Chicago. People, they expect this from Loyola Chicago, whereas Oregon State goes in, they beat Loyola Chicago, which is pretty cool. So, which of these teams are going to become tournament mainstays? If I put my money on any, I would probably say Oregon State, because they are a bigger conference team. But I would like to see Oral Roberts, especially if Ace Miss and O'Banner come back to play, if they get more play in the tournaments, man, because that's what this tournament's for. This tournament is for teams like them to show out. Teams like Wichita State 100 years ago. Teams like Butler. Butler was never really a team that anybody ever talked about until Gordon Hayward was on that team, and they were able to make a run in the tournament. So that's why we love this tournament. It's a great tournament.
Yeah, dude, even, to your point, even a team like U of H, like, they're ranked high this year. They have great talent, but U of H hasn't been relevant since Hakeem was there. That was in the 80s. So maybe their team too, like you said, Oregon State. Maybe U of H can start coming around.
Yeah, I think U of H is kind of talked about, because like even I want to say this U of H team has been really good for the last like maybe 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
but they don't get the traction that other teams get, and I think now that they're becoming that, like this year was probably their highest seed they've had in forever, a 2 seed. Yeah. Who knows, man? Maybe next year they get a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Really cool. I actually don't know who's returning. I would have to look that up next year. I'm actually looking up University of Houston players that are going into the draft. U of H basketball players. To NBA next year. Let's see. So we got not real GM. I don't need that. No, that was a horrible Jack. U of H player.
So while you look that up, I'm looking at the top leader on the brackets on ESPN.
Yeah.
Their pick to win it, Baylor University.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you see how many points they have remaining? Because that's how they do it. Hold on, I can check, because I have the March Madness app. That's how they do it. Like they do rankings sometimes. Is because like you could have a high amount of points, but you might not have enough remaining. Dude, my freaking ranking dropped. Wow, I fell out of I was in the top spot in like my family's bracket challenge. I am all the way to 7.
Wow.
I don't know how I dropped so far down, but I got 54 points, and I have 80 remaining, so I can still win. But damn.
Are you doing it through ESPN?
No, I did mine through the March Madness app.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was gonna say because this guy's like 880 points, but it seems like the scale is way different.
Let me see. So the dang it. So the top guy has 89 points. He's got Gonzaga winning the whole thing.
Okay.
Let's see. He has Gonzaga Baylor in the championship game. He does have UCLA in the championship. I mean, in the he has UCLA and Baylor in the Final Four. Dude, he has Gonzaga and UCLA.
So, damn, that's bold. The guy on ESPN that I'm looking at, his Final Four is Baylor versus Houston, and on the other side, USC versus Michigan.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I like
wild.
it, bro. I mean, these guys are number one for a reason, I guess.
I
But
like
maybe
it
next
too.
week.
So I haven't seen anywhere where we can see who's going to the. But I really hope Dijon Giroux can return. I really hope Quentin Grimes, who I think has been a massive, massive deal to this team. Quentin Grimes making the. He's a Houston native, but he was at another school last year. I'm gonna see. Let me pull that up. Which school he was at, but like that was a big transfer for him to come over to Houston. I think it was big for the program.
Yeah.
Let's see, Quentin Grimes, because he is a Houston native. He was born in the Woodlands.
Nice.
Let's see.
You love to see that, man. You love to see these guys playing for their local university. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I remember talking to my he left Kansas. Was it Kansas or Kentucky? Yeah, he left Kansas University to come to Houston, and he said he left. Said he didn't feel like it was a good situation.
Okay.
So and this came up because I was talking to my brother and I said, the sad thing is like the great thing actually, but also the sad thing is that U of H is doing this because. Doing this without getting like top tier recruits from like other states.
Right.
They're always homegrown talents. They're always guys who know U of H and they come over here. They can't really they don't have the best recruiting, but they're still doing this. And I think a big part of it is because Kelvin Sampson has created a winning culture over there in U of H. But my brother mentioned like, oh well, they got Quentin Grimes. Like he's big, but he's like, oh, but he's a Houston native. So I was like, yeah, I mean, it counts, but it doesn't count at the same time. Like,
right.
He kind of came he kind of came thinking like, they're already kind of winning. I can get in there, and I mean, he's taking them to a whole nother level. But we don't get like big name recruits. We don't like. Let me look at. So they say the top guy in the NCAA is Cade Cunningham, right?
Right.
Cade Cunningham. Where is he from? I don't know if he's from Oklahoma State. He was born in Arlington, Texas.
For Dallas.
Yeah, so he didn't
Dallas
come.
area.
That's all about recruiting.
Right, and also it's like how did Oklahoma State out recruit that guy from not only U of H but from Texas A&M, from Baylor? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's part of it too, man. It's like, dude, the talent is here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might not see it, but the talent is here in Texas.
Yeah, for sure. How do you lose that on a talent like that? And it's weird. I also think that maybe it's because maybe they don't put as much into the recruiting. I think maybe they believe a little bit, not too much, but a lot in Kelvin Sampson. Like we can put
Right.
these guys around him and he can develop them. So my question is, would U of H be willing to put more money into the recruiting in order to do this? It'd be tough. I don't know.
It'd be
a
tough.
Question.
Like they definitely need some national spotlight players to take them over the hump, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you look at Duke and the Kentuckys of the world, like some years they just have like I think of like when Kansas had Embiid. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
When you have like certain players like that, dude, it's just it brings that spotlight here, and it creates more recruits and more recruits. So it's like walking that balance of like trying to win the tournament versus like trying to get pro players. Because you look at someone like Kentucky, like Kentucky could give a shit about the tournament at this point. They're just trying to get the best prospects and develop them,
Get them to the NBA immediately.
Exactly, man. So it's a thin line, man. Maybe things change if they can win a title. Maybe they say, hey, let's just try and get the best recruits now, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big thing too. Is you don't see a lot of like U of H players going straight to the NBA, whereas like
Right.
Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, they're all going straight to
Consistently.
the NBA. So that's an interesting thing that maybe we could keep an eye on too. Is especially like when we get towards the draft. I mean, we got a long way towards the draft, but
right.
Keeping up with that. So we're gonna go ahead and head out soon, but let's talk the fact that we still haven't gotten a first round draft pick in the Texans. I don't think we are because of the Deshaun Watson situation. We are now at 19 civil cases. And from what I heard, there is a 20th on the way, and it is the most damning one that there is.
Also, I just want to throw in, I heard that Deshaun's deleting DMs to some evidence.
Yeah, man, it's getting really tough. And I talked about it with some guys at work, and they were like, it just seems fishy that it came out this time. And I was just telling them, like, it doesn't really matter when it came out. You can't really put that. You can't, like, when someone brings something into, like, someone brings a case or charges up against someone, you can't question why are they doing it now. You can only take it at face value, and you take it, okay, they're saying this happened, let's get the evidence. And then other people are saying, well, why are these civil cases not criminal charges? Because there is a saying, I don't know exactly what it is, but there is a smaller level of evidence you have to provide in civil cases in order to get a guilty, not even necessarily guilty, I guess just ruling in favor of the plaintiff.
Right.
Whereas in criminal cases,
deciding the outcome versus juries and things like that.
Exactly. Whereas in criminal cases, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and in cases like this, maybe DMs will be seen or back and forth text messages can be seen as consent, even though they're clearly not consent. And another thing I was talking with my girlfriend about, I talked to Crystal about was, I don't necessarily think Deshaun Watson is a predator. Mm-hmm. That's what I'll say. I don't think he's a predator. I think he is growing up as a high school football star, as a college football star, feeling untouchable, feeling like nothing can happen to them, growing up in a situation where most likely in high school he had all these girls around him because he was a football star, especially in college. We've heard stories of campuses hiding stuff. Burying stuff to save their players. Who knows? Maybe something like this happened in Clemson. But basically, like, able to do more stuff. Now, I'm not putting that. I'm not saying that's. I don't have any evidence for that. I'm just saying.
I get what you're saying, though. It happens. It happens at university.
Yeah, there's so many stories of like college stars getting away with so much stuff. Let's not forget that one college kid, like sport. I don't know what he played. I know he played like some kind of sport that really raped a woman, and they were able to make it go away. And they said that we didn't want to ruin his life. He ruined a girl's life. What do you mean? But I don't necessarily think that that's Deshaun. I think that he just has a problem. I think he has a certain kind of fetish that he likes, maybe, and he was able to get away with that kind of thing in college, but in the real world where that's not allowed, you can't. And I think like a lot of the stories was like he exposed himself to them and was like, come on, like let's do something, and then they said no, and he was like okay, like, and then proceeded to leave. I believe there's one case where it's the opposite, where he forced, which if that's the case, then that's not okay. But I think these guys need to be taught that there are consequences to your actions. And there's the rookie symposium where these young kids are taught, hey, like, you're about to get a lot of money, try not to spend it in all plays, don't make any like bad investments.
Right.
Your family's gonna come and ask you for money type stuff. And they teach them how to navigate that. I think now there needs to be something to navigate this kind of thing. Like, don't put women in uncomfortable situations. Don't expose yourself to women. Don't try not to misunderstand any situation you're in with a woman or with anybody, whether it's a man or a woman. Don't do that, because this is what can happen. So I think that maybe more training, more stuff like that needs to be taught for these kids. Because like I said, I don't think Deshaun Watson's necessarily a bad person. I just think he just has done some inappropriate things, and that can be taught, that can be rehabilitated. So I mean, I don't want to see this guy's whole entire life ruined because he thought he could get away with. He thought that people like that he's Deshaun Watson and he can get away with exposing himself. Because like I told Crystal, I was like, he's Deshaun Watson. All he's gonna do is walk into a club, walk into a bar, walk up to a woman, say, "I'm Deshaun Watson. Do you want to go home with me?" And he doesn't say yes or no. That's just, it's a big deal. You don't have to do this masseuse thing. I told Crystal like what was happening. She was like, "Why didn't he just hire like call girls and have them massage him?"
Yeah, it's an excellent question.
Like, we don't know. That's
what we don't know.
Him. So I don't know, man. I don't want to see his entire career ruined, but I am starting to think that it's getting too much. Where I think he said this last week, but now it's even getting more. Like, I don't know if we can deny it anymore.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think everything you said was well spoken. You know, as a dad now, and you know, having a daughter, like it's a more sensitive topic for me. So I agree with what you said about, you know, if he was forcing himself on those girls, it's definitely a different story. I'm glad, at least from what we know, is like there wasn't like rapes or, you know, that type of stuff involved. Thank God. But yeah, man, you know, at the end of the day, like, I hope he just finds like the guidance he's looking for. Like, I think a lot of times in today's media, there's not a lot of forgiveness given to people, and, you know, just kind of wanting to point and call people wrong. So I'm not sure why the timing of this case either. Like, it is a good question, but like you said, you know, regardless of if he did it or not, like that's the issue. It's not about when. And, you know, I just hope Deshaun, guilty or not guilty, I hope he still has some sort of recovery or rejuvenation from this, because he's a crazy talented football player. I mean, we saw what he did at Clemson, you know, beating Alabama when Alabama seemed untouchable. He's a gifted guy, but he just has to get refocused, man. Refocused and rejuvenated. I imagine it's hard in the Texans organization, but maybe this is what the adversity he needs, you know? So yeah, man, that's all I have to say about it. Just wish him the best, and you know, hope he finds his way.
Yeah, and like as a father to a son, like, it's my responsibility to teach Eli what is right and what's wrong, and like, to approach certain situations. So like you said, like, it hits you a certain way, it hits me in a certain way. Like, man, like, I got to make sure that like my son knows that this is not okay. Like, how to do certain things. Also, and when you say to like that this is weird timing and we're not supposed to worry about that, I think that's an investigation that happens further down the line. If you know, once this whole thing has resolved itself, not blown over, but resolved itself, and whatever happens to Deshaun, then you can start asking questions. Why did this happen? Why did it happen? That's a different investigation, guys. But at the moment, let's focus on the one investigation we have going, which is the claims that these women are making. I'm not saying believe. I'm not, because like I know people will say like, oh, like, are we supposed to take these women at their word? Like, well, can we prove them wrong first? Like, let's do that. Like, I'm not saying believe all women. Women do lie. Everyone lies.
Yeah, everyone lies.
Like, everyone
we need to listen.
But we have to take things seriously when they're spoken.
Right.
Or else we have to believe, not believe, but we have to try and prove all cases, and we have to look at the evidence for all cases in order to weed out the fake ones from the real ones. Because if we don't do that, if we don't need to take everyone seriously, then the real victims will not feel comfortable coming out and speaking.
Exactly.
So let's end it on that note. We will be back next week, as always, guys, here on the regular podcast to talk everything sports related. Oh, also, that we didn't even mention, congratulations to Francis Ngannou for knocking out Stipe Miocic in his win this past weekend. It was a beautiful knockout. It was a beautiful fight. I think he fought one of his best fights I've ever seen him fight. He looked great, and I will say this man is. If you haven't seen it, check this dude out. He is the scariest man in the world. And if he was scary before, and this guy fought a patient fight, a very he was timing everything out perfectly. And to me, that's a more scary. Francis Ngannou is someone who's just hanging back and waiting for you. So check that out if you haven't. We now have 3 African-born UFC champions in the UFC. You have Francis Ngannou, who's from Cameroon. And also, if you haven't seen his podcast on Joe Rogan, the dude's his life should be a movie. He escaped Cameroon when he was 13 years old. Well, tried to escape Cameroon around that age. Was caught. Apparently in Cameroon, when they catch you trying to flee the country, they just ship you to the Sahara Desert and make you survive in the Sahara Desert. Survive in the Sahara Desert. Finally found his way to France. Was arrested and put in jail for 2 months. Got out, started fighting, made his way to the United States, and became a UFC fighter. Dude, and now he's a UFC champion. So if you haven't checked out his story, please do. It's an insane story of. Dude, don't if you think you got it bad, man, you don't know, and you can't overcome what you're going through.
I like that. I think we should end it there. I'm gonna go check it out. I hope all y'all do too.
Hell yeah, man, do it. It is an amazing story. So we will see you guys next weekend. I'm Alec Miller. You can find me at AlecMiller0423. You can find me there talking all kinds of stuff about anything. I think, dude, my last tweet was I saw the Mike Tyson commercial, and I thought it was really funny, so I tweeted about it.
Oh yeah, it is funny.
All right, and yeah, so catch me there. Catch me on the ANS podcast. Me and Jesus will be talking about the UFC fight in greater depth this upcoming Wednesday. So check that out. Also, we'll have Jesus on the podcast soon, so I'm looking forward to that. Let them know where they can find you, man.
Hey, PL Trinidad on Instagram, man. Find me on Twitter at Black McLaren. I'm trying to drive a Black McLaren one day. That's why I chose that name. But yeah, man, keep up with me. Like my boy Alec, I love podcasting, love talking sports. And yeah, man, I'm always open for collaboration. So if you ever want to collaborate or see some of the work I've already put in, at PL Trinidad on Instagram, and you can see it there.
Yeah, that's right. The OP Club, right?
Yeah. You can also check out the OP Club, O.P. Club. That's the Instagram page for our channel as well. Spotify, Apple, look us up.
Absolutely, guys. We'll see you guys next week for the regular podcast. Peace out, guys.